Lu Xing finally got his revenge. Extreme Wei Martial Saint's wife, Lian Su, was tormented by Lu Xing to the point of preferring death to life. Just now, the fourth demon god came to hunt down Lu Xing. However, no matter what killing moves the opponent used, they couldn't inflict any damage on Lu Xing. Clearly, she had played all her cards. The next moment, under the horrified gaze of the woman, a giant hand formed of psychic energy gripped her throat. Die, woman, you are no longer of any use. Lu Xing blocked the attack with one hand and slowly lifted the beast mother. The beast mother, pressed by an invisible force, trembled violently and struggled to breathe. Finally, 2 seconds later, she foamed at the mouth and died on the spot, having her last meal. It's time to say goodbye to this world. If you're lucky enough, maybe you'll also get to experience a transmigration. The next moment, under Lu Xing's explosive strike, the beast mother was utterly obliterated. Afterwards, Lu Xing dialed the nearby military area, instructing the troops to come to the coordinates for a cleanup. This interception by the Black Magic Society made Lu Xing realize the limits of his own strength. His pure vital energy and blood, supplemented by 7 immortal cells and various enhancements, could probably reach a battle power of 70 to 80 stars. His maximum effort might reach 100 stars. However, a 100-star battle power is still far from a true martial saint level. However, Lu Xing had just stepped into the realm of the great grandmaster not long ago, and his essence, energy, and spirit had not yet begun to fuse, so there was still a long road ahead. He knew he was still weak. Meanwhile, inside Lian Su's villa, there was thunderous noise. Failed again. I've given so much and taken such big risks to find you guys, and now you're telling me it failed? The person on the other end of the video apologized. No one could have expected this outcome. In fact, the Black Magic Society suffered a tremendous loss. Your target caused us to lose 4 powerful pillars of the demon god. Lian Su, however, thought this was the Black Magic Society's own problem. Since your losses are so great, shouldn't you have killed that boy completely? She didn't believe that the mighty Black Magic Society couldn't handle a mere level 8 character. The liaison said, it's possible, as long as any one of the top 3 pillars of the demon god intervenes, they could easily resolve it, but it would cost 20 times more than before. Upon hearing this, Lian Su panicked. Just the cost of the previous operation had already drained the family fortune provided by Extreme Wei Martial Saint. The liaison explained, any one of the top 3 pillars of the demon god entering the Dragon Nation could cause significant disturbances to the international situation, possibly even drawing the attention of the 3 level 9 martial saints of Dragon Nation. This involves too much, and cannot be simply explained. After all, our Black Magic Society is not purely an assassin organization. This time, we helped you only because of the face of the person behind you. This infuriated Lian Su, who cursed the liaison's ancestors and furiously smashed the tablet in her hand. Get out. All of you, get out. Okay, madam, but this operation has caused losses to our Black Magic Society, and we need you to make some compensation. The specific compensation amount will be sent to your email in a couple of days. These words directly caused Lian Su to suffer an endocrine disorder. Damn it, you people from Lion Kingdom screw up and still want me to pay? Is this what you call the prowess of the world strong? After saying that, she crushed the tablet under her foot, her face full of resentment. For this revenge, Lian Su almost crossed that person's bottom line, and yet it ended like this. Extreme Wei Martial Saint had warned Lian Su to let this matter go, but she couldn't swallow this insult. Why is it not going smoothly? That was just a small character with legs covered in yellow mud. Lian Su couldn't accept it. She cried in deep ideological struggle and finally fell asleep exhausted. Seeing this, the servant behind her quickly went to prepare some hot food to ensure the madam could eat whenever she woke up. As the night deepened, a miserable cry of a man kept echoing, shouting, "Sister." This sound directly woke Lian Su up. She looked up and saw a little black shadow with a blurred face and cherry lips in front of her. However, the sharp look in its eyes made Lian Su recognize him at once. It was her brother Lian Jibei. Hearing her brother's continuous screams, Lian Su fell into deep, mad self-blame. The next moment, as her consciousness spread, Lian Su suddenly woke up, screaming, "Ah!" She turned her head to look, but the room was empty. Such a vivid dream gave her feelings she had never had before. Could it be that she didn't avenge them, and now they have become ghosts looking for her? Just then, Lian Su felt an unusual dryness in her throat, so she asked the servant to bring in some water. Thirsty, she picked up the cup without hesitation and drank deeply. However, the next moment, she suddenly felt nauseous. What is this water? Why does it taste so awful? On closer inspection, it turned out to be a cup filled with blood and eyeballs. Just then, a child's voice suddenly came from the darkness. Auntie, does my blood taste good?" In the darkness, Lian Su's figure suddenly pounced, and various stimuli caused her to faint on the spot. Seeing Lian Su lying motionless on the bed, Lu Xing revealed a disdainful smile. Using a mental illusion to deal with a mere 6th level martial artist, especially a woman with extreme mental instability, is really too easy. To be tormented by fear and despair in an endless, repeating nightmare until one dies from a mental breakdown is perhaps the most cunning, most traceless, and most agonizing method of all. For a viperous woman who tried to harm him multiple times and wanted to put his family in mortal danger, Lu Xing had no reason to feel any compassion. After all, I'm not a saint, just an ordinary person with a bit of a sense of justice and not much cunning. However, just then, Lu Xing suddenly felt a strong oppressive force coming from behind. This kind of presence that made him feel a threat of death could probably only be matched by a martial saint. Lu Xing almost forgot that since he could sense imminent danger to those around him, a level 9 martial saint must have similar abilities. Speaking of which, Lu Xing slowly reached out his hand. Since that's the case, I'm afraid I can't continue tormenting Lian Su. So, Lu Xing simply ended her life to avoid being cornered by a martial saint, which would be troublesome. Fortunately, just as Lian Su died, the premonition in Lu Xing's forehead significantly weakened. After her death, Lu Xing's figure instantly vanished from the room. However, at this moment, hearing the noise, the maids thought Lian Su had awakened and were about to enter the room with food. But the next moment, they were so scared that they dropped the trays on the floor. It's bad. It's bad. The madam is dead. Meanwhile, in the Chen family estate in Capital Province, various celebrities came to congratulate Old Master Chen on his longevity celebration. My goodness, even a martial arts grandmaster has come to attend Old Master Chen's birthday. What an honor. What do you know? Old Master Chen himself is a martial arts grandmaster, so naturally, he knows many big shots. Some of his friends are even level 8 great grandmasters from the military. A level 8 great grandmaster. I've never seen one in real life. Sisters, we have to work hard tonight. If one of the big shots takes a fancy to us, that would be hitting the jackpot. Watching this scene unfold, Healing Su was quite disgusted. Is this what they call high society? It's really boring. Just then, a pig's trotter reached out towards Healing Su. Healing Su, it's your first time here. You're just not used to it. Let's go in together. This person was Healing Su's cousin, but Healing Su said she was still waiting for someone. I didn't know you had friends in Capital. I'll have to meet them later. Healing Su didn't expect that ever since she arrived at the Chen family's place, their attitude had been quite warm. This so-called cousin was also quite attentive to her, but she always felt. Just then, a voice came from behind. Think he's no good? Has ulterior motives? Ah, yes, exactly that feeling. Lu Xing's sudden appearance surprised Healing Su. At first, she thought Lu Xing was just talking casually, but he actually arrived on time. Lu Xing was also shocked. The distance from Lian Su's estate to the Chen family's banquet site is at least 1,000 kilometers, but I finished the whole journey in 5 minutes. The speed is 10 times the speed of sound. This projection skill is really something good. However, Healing Su said that her side didn't need any so-called novel plot twists, and she didn't need Lu Xing to back her up. In fact, she felt that the Chen family was treating her well, and they had even begun to accept her. But Lu Xing said, they are only accepting your wealth. Healing Su felt inside that returning to the Chen family and paying some corresponding price was quite normal. Lu Xing was surprised. He thought Healing Su's character would lead her to resist to the end, but she ended up compromising. Perhaps her upbringing made her crave this kind of fake familial love. Although Lu Xing could understand, whether he supported it was another matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I will make the right choice for you. Hearing this, Healing Su was stunned. At the same time, she asked Lu Xing, who was looking around, what he was searching for. I'm looking for a shining unfortunate fellow. Lu Xing pointed ahead and asked, who is that guy? According to Healing Su, this person was the second young master of the Zhou family, Zhou Yuman. The Zhou family is one of the top families in Capital and even abroad, with more influence than our Chen family. However, this person himself is not very competent, just a wastrel. His brother Zhou Jilin, on the other hand, is much more formidable. Hearing this, Lu Xing sneered. Now you're starting to say our Chen family? These fearless things entangle you, and they will only hinder your path to becoming stronger. Don't worry, I will help you perfection solve all this. This statement left Healing Su stunned, and to those unaware, it might seem like Lu Xing was confessing his feelings to her. Subsequently, Lu Xing slowly walked forward. At this time, young Master Zhou was impatiently dismissing some sycophantic developers. I told you all to get lost. However, Lu Xing's imposing figure suddenly appeared, startling him. He could feel that the man in front of him, whether in stature, appearance, or demeanor and presence, exerted a suffocating oppressive force. A seasoned wastrel knows to stay away from such people. So, he quickly hid behind 2 girls and cautiously asked, who are you? Lu Xing, with his hands in his pockets, said lightly, that red sports car behind you, is it yours? Pretty cool. How much did it cost? Hearing this, young Master Zhou's tension eased slightly. It seemed he was just attracted by his new car. He couldn't help but laugh. Bought it for over 80 million. Of course it's good stuff. It's the only one in the whole Dragon Nation. Lu Xing feigned astonishment. Wow, over 80 million. Saying this, he moved forward to touch the luxury car. Seeing this, young Master Zhou couldn't help but sneer disdainfully. Just as I thought, a bumpkin. The next moment, Lu Xing's tone shifted. The car is nice, but sorry, I'm jealous. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Xing's body suddenly burst out with a cyan aura, and the luxury car beneath his feet was instantly compressed into a slab of metal. Look, now I feel much better. Beside him, young Master Zhou was enraged, and he abruptly reached out to Lu Xing's shoulder, demanding, brother, what do you mean by this? If you don't explain yourself today, I'll have you thrown into the sea to feed the pigs. However, the strong oppressive aura released by Lu Xing pushed him back. Brother? Who's your brother? My name is Lu Xing, a friend of Healing Su from the Chen family. If you're upset, feel free to come and find me. After saying that, Lu Xing stretched out his finger towards the front. Look, there's Su. Hearing this, everyone turned their gaze towards the direction Lu Xing was pointing, eager to see who dared to be so bold and domineering in capital. Meanwhile, Su was completely dumbfounded. Still unresponsive, she had now become the target of all. Watching the destroyed luxury car, young Master Zhou cried in pain. Lu Xing clapped his hands, feigning innocence, and said, "Oh dear, why can't I control myself?" Envy young Master Zhou's feelings here. Hearing this, young Master Zhou was so angry that his eyes nearly burst into flames, and he roared, Su of the Chen family, right? And you, Lu Xing, I'll remember this. This series of actions completely bewildered Su, filling her heart with confusion. Why am I suddenly involved in this? The next moment, Lu Xing, with a confused Su in tow, turned around and left, telling her, "Ignore them, let's go inside the venue and see what's happening." This drama made some of the developers around them curious about the two, discussing who they really were, impressive enough to leave people wanting more. As the two entered the venue, Su pushed Lu Xing away from her side and demanded, "Lu Xing, what are you trying to do? You just smashed someone's car and then provoked them, and you mentioned my name out of the blue. Isn't that setting me up?" Hearing this, Lu Xing simply smiled. All of this was to stand up for you. Yet, a suddenly befuddled Su continued to question, "Stand up for me? Why would you stand up for me when nothing was done to me? At least give me a reason." Lu Xing stroked his chin, pretending to think hard. "Ah, got it. Look at that guy. He doesn't look like good news. And you're dressed so beautifully today. He's bound to notice and then harbor evil thoughts. Ultimately, he'll stop at nothing to have you." Saying this, Lu Xing stroked Su's forehead, mockingly adding, "It's all written like this in novels. I'm just taking precautions, nipping the danger in the bud. Don't thank me." This series of twisted logic left Su speechless and unable to retort. She could only helplessly give a thumbs up. Impressive. Soon, as the noise continued to rise, guests began to arrive at the banquet. Among them, young Master Zhou's snake-like gaze was constantly fixed on Lu Xing and Su. Seeing this, Su's cousin quickly squeezed out a smile and eagerly approached, trying to ingratiate himself. Su, won't you introduce me to your friend? Smashing someone's car as soon as you arrive and pinning it on our Chen family. Really impressive, young man. Su was about to explain, but Lu Xing cut her off first. This young man, you really have a way with words. If I'm not mistaken, it seems like you're implying something about me." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Xing's grim reaper-like presence surged. This made the cousin who wanted to make trouble suddenly feel a chill, and he quickly stepped back 2 meters. He couldn't understand why. As a proud level 6 martial artist, he couldn't withstand this oppressive aura. How is it possible that I can't even endure one look from him? That gaze was like the abyss, full of oppressiveness. Panicked, he said, Are you that top student from the 7th St. Martial University? The rare martial arts genius who's expected to become a grandmaster? You treat me like this, but our Chen family has a level 8 great grandmaster." However, he suddenly realized he couldn't run at all. He tried with all his might, yet he couldn't move an inch in the air. The next moment, his figure was slowly lifted up, hanging in the air, completely baffled. He turned his head toward Su for help. Su, please ask him to let me go." Lu Xing, controlling his psychic power, said coldly, "Did I say you could leave? Did I say you were insinuating something about me? Why are you saying all this nonsense?" Hearing this, Su quickly stepped forward to intervene. "Lu Xing, let it go. Don't make a big deal out of it." Lu Xing smiled. "Since the lady has spoken, I'll do as you wish. But from where do you want him to come down?" As soon as he finished speaking, Su's cousin was smashed by Lu Xing directly onto the banquet table. Watching the human-shaped object suddenly crash into the center of the venue, the other guests gathered around, curious about what had happened here. At this moment, Su was trembling with despair in her heart. She felt that everything was over, that the hard-earned opportunity was ruined in an instant. Were all those years of effort going to be wasted? As she was lost in her frantic thoughts, a fierce aura burst into the venue, momentarily interrupting her thoughts. The newcomer was young Master Zhou, clearly intent on revenge for the earlier luxury car incident. Young Master Zhou roared, calling his martial artist guards. "Tie him up. This ignorant youngster really thinks he's somebody because he won first place at some national martial university competition." He pointed at Lu Xing and continued to curse. "I was just intimidated by you earlier. Wait for your death." Then, he turned his gaze to Su. "And you, little beauty, watch how I deal with you after I handle that kid." Saying this, young Master Zhou revealed a disgusting smile, even sticking out his tongue. A daughter-in-law of the Chen family. If it weren't for the Chen family's intention to take over that woman's properties, this mongrel wouldn't even have the qualifications to enter the banquet. Just then, someone in the crowd shouted Su's name. Soon, a middle-aged woman ran over in a panic, cursing as she ran. "What kind of friends do you have? Kick him out now. Do you still want to return to the Chen family? Let that boy get lost." After speaking, she went up to pull Su aside. Come, go back with mom. Later, we'll go and apologize to young Master Zhou alone to clear up the misunderstanding." Apologize alone? Hearing her own mother speak like this, Su felt a wave of disappointment. Isn't this walking into a lion's den? Seeing this, Lu Xing mockingly said nearby, "Wasn't I right? Just like it's written in the novels. You, as the female protagonist template in this scenario, were bound to become the target, suppressed and targeted by everyone, ending ending with a villain forcibly taking things. As soon as he finished speaking, Healing Su vanished from in front of her mother and reappeared in front of Lu Shen. "Don't you still have me?" Healing Su angrily retorted. "Didn't all this happen because of you?" Seeing the two so close, Healing Su's mother exploded in rage. "Healing Su, listen to me. Immediately distance yourself from him and come here obediently. If you agree to what we discussed earlier, the family will naturally ensure you're safe and forgive this mistake." Hearing this, Healing Su was silent for a moment, then looked at Lu Shen deeply for 2 seconds. At that moment, she seemed to have her answer. Then, with a resolute look, she said, "Sorry, Miss Chen, I'm afraid I cannot accept the conditions you proposed earlier." Seeing her daughter start to rebel, Healing Su's mother became furious, calling her an ingrate and ordering the family bodyguards to seize them. Seeing this, Lu Shen positioned Healing Su behind him and slowly spoke. "Don't worry, you won't regret the choice you're making today." Young Master Zhou immediately called in family experts, ready to move against Lu Shen. The crowd around them jeered. Healing Su and her friend are done for now. However, just as their fists were about half a foot from Lu Shen, he suddenly burst out with a cyan energy, instantly engulfing everyone around him. Under this force, everyone was thrown back against the wall, stuck there unable to move. Seeing this, young Master Zhou was almost scared to pee, but in the next moment, a man wearing glasses was thrown down, landing directly on young Master Zhou, actually making him pee. Just then, a spectator slowly walked out from the crowd. "Not bad, not bad. This kid actually has a Grandmaster's cultivation. Interesting. I didn't expect that coming to a banquet in my spare time. Zhou Jilin, would encounter such an interesting person." Before he finished speaking, his eyes suddenly narrowed. Lu Shen swiftly grabbed his wrist, and Zhou Jilin cried out in pain. My hand, my hand." Finally, Lu Shen scoffed and kicked Zhou Jilin away. "Mind your own business. Get lost." As Zhou Jilin plummeted from the sky, landing heavily on young Master Zhou and others, they spewed 2 tons of fresh blood. Seeing this, Healing Su's mother nearly had an endocrine disorder from shock, unable to stand steadily. Instant defeat. A level 7 martial arts grandmaster defeated in one move. Just how strong is this young man? No wonder he was so confident. Better leave quickly to avoid getting hurt. Just then, a middle-aged man shouted in the venue, "Are there any other grandmaster friends willing to stand up for justice? My Chin family will surely reward you handsomely today." Hearing this, the crowd around hung their heads in shame, with no one stepping forward. The middle-aged man was shocked. Could it be that today, our Chin family will be humiliated like this? Seeing this, Lu Shen took Healing Su's hand and said with a sneer, "See, Healing Su, this is the noble family you always wanted to rely on." Just then, a striking voice came from behind. "How dare you cause trouble at my Chen Jingnan's birthday celebration? It's old Master Chen, and there's a general from the military." The crowd looked up, only to find the figure beside old Master Chen somewhat familiar. Someone whispered, "My God, I didn't realize old Master Chen had connections in the military. That's a 7-star general, a top figure in the military." Not only that, but everyone noticed another old man accompanying him. That's Vice President Jiang He of the Capital Province Martial Association. He's a well-known level 8 great grandmaster. The middle-aged man, who had just been looking worried, now suddenly wore a smug expression, his eyes filled with triumph. Lu Shen hadn't expected that. After parting ways with Jiang He at the martial arts conference, they would meet again here. Next to him, Healing Su, looking anxious, tightly held Lu Shen's hand and whispered, "Lu Shen, let's escape now. I'll stay and negotiate with the Chen family. With my mother's connections, we can still sort this out." However, Lu Shen stood still, unflinching. This made Healing Su even more anxious, and tears suddenly welled up. "Go, you fool. Why are you just standing there?" Lu Shen reached out, gently wiped the tears from the corner of Healing Su's eyes, and whispered reassuringly, "Don't worry, it's okay." Healing Su, with her fists pounding Lu Shen's chest, looked anxious. "How can it be okay? You really have a death wish. The Chen family won't let you off easily." But Lu Shen remained calm. "Don't worry, they only act tough because they have numbers. If it really comes to a fight, no one can match me. Healing Su, you're the protagonist template. As your backer, how could I be so easily defeated? The real show is just beginning." Just then, Chen Jingnan, with a grim face, stared at Lu Shen like a knife. "Is it you who caused a commotion at my Chen family's banquet, ruining my birthday celebration?" Lu Shen paid him no mind, instead turning to greet Jiang He nearby. "Oh, old Jiang, long time no see." Jiang He, stroking his beard, looked incredulous. He remembered the scene where Lu Shen had killed a grandmaster and the gruesome death of Lian Jibei, which had left a deep impression on him. Jiang He then took on a peacemaker's stance, advising Chen Jingnan, "Today is your 80th birthday. For my sake, let's not quarrel with the younger generation." Chen Jingnan sneered, "Old Jiang, technically speaking, this young man intentionally came to my birthday celebration to cause trouble. I really shouldn't." Before he could finish, Lu Shen raised his hand to interrupt. No need to make it complicated. Just do as you were going to." This left Jiang Yi speechless, shocked to the point that his beard almost fell off. Why isn't this kid following the script? He's been given a way out and he doesn't take it. Seeing this, Chen Jingnan's face was full of rage, as if he was about to explode. He glanced towards Jiang He, seemingly waiting for him to interject again. However, Jiang He just scoffed and spread his hands. "I, the vice president of the Martial Association, have already pleaded on his behalf. No need to make a fool of myself by by saying more. Lu Xing looked disdainfully at Chen Jingnan. Hurry up then. If you're going to make a move, let's all go at once. I don't have all day to waste with you. Hearing this, Chen Jingnan no longer held back, ready to teach Lu Xing a lesson. But just then, a stern and deep voice came from outside. General Du Linjun of the Eastern Military Region's 5th War Zone. At your service, Mr. Lu. Lu Xing was taken aback, not expecting to encounter someone from the Eastern Military Region here, and thought to himself, what a coincidence. Du Linjun stepped forward respectfully and said, Mr. Lu, we met during the grand competition. At that time, Dong Xingyi and I teamed up, but you knocked us out of the ring with one punch. Don't you remember? Lu Xing awkwardly smiled in response. Ah, now I remember. In reality, he was full of confusion. What the hell? I don't remember at all. There were too many people I fought then. Seeing this, old Master Chen awkwardly asked, General Du, you know Mr. Lu Xing? Du Linjun immediately replied, Mr. Lu is the shining sun of our Eastern Military Region, the king of the general stars of the East. In this military exercise, we were merely accompanying Mr. Lu. Eastern Military Region, the shining sun, king of the general stars. Hearing these titles, the crowd around them burst into an uproar. Even Jiang He was utterly shocked. This Lu Xing just left the martial arts conference less than half a year ago, and he has already become a level 8 great grandmaster and reached the top. This is too incredible. The previously arrogant Chen family members now turned pale, thinking, we are in deep trouble now. Old Master Chen immediately bowed, his face all smiles. Mr. Lu, this has all been a misunderstanding. Please, sir, let bygones be bygones and forgive us. Lu Xing snorted coldly, looking at old Master Chen with a smile that was not quite a smile, and eventually shook his head, deciding not to pursue the matter further, and turned to leave with Yilingsu. He felt somewhat regretful. It's really boring when the climax ends before it even starts. Just then, Yilingsu's mother desperately called out her daughter's name, trying to make her stay and urging her to come home quickly. However, at this moment, Yilingsu's mind was clear, fully aware that such insincere familial affection was meaningless. Perhaps this was exactly what Lu Xing wanted her to see today. She murmured softly, looking down, haven't my dad and I lived like this for over 20 years? In the days to come, she looked up at Lu Xing's figure, her eyes filled with newfound resolve. I can live just fine without her. Thinking this, Yilingsu realized how foolish she had been before. Hearing this, Lu Xing laughed heartily. That's the Yilingsu I know. So, how did you like the plot I set up for you today? Did it feel like you were the protagonist? Yilingsu rolled her eyes. The protagonist is clearly you. I bet by tomorrow, half of Capital will know that Eastern Military Region General Lu Xing made a scene at the Chen family's celebration. Hearing this, Lu Xing grinned. That's exactly the effect I wanted. Curious about Lu Xing's comments, Yilingsu asked, why? Lu Xing shook his head sheepishly. I'm not usually like this, and I, Lu Xing, am known for being reasonable, modest, and low-key. Today was an exception for you. Looking at this slick talker, Yilingsu was utterly speechless, but she didn't press further. This time, Lu Xing had used himself as bait to lure the Black Magic Society, killed Lian Su with a projection of will, and then deliberately smashed up the Chen family's event. Everything was executed flawlessly. However, for some reason, he felt a slight unease. Despite the immortal cells in his brow being quiet and showing no signs of disturbance, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Could it be that he was overthinking? As Yilingsu turned to leave, Lu Xing suddenly called out, Yilingsu, how about we talk about the next prescription now? Sure enough, this girl always gets excited when it comes to making medicine. Meanwhile, inside the Chen residence, Chen Jingnan was brewing tea to thank Jiang He and Du Linjun. If it weren't for the two of you, today would have been tough for the Chen family. Old Jiang waved his hand. It was just a small effort, but fortune and misfortune go hand in hand, and this is a good opportunity for you to straighten out your family affairs. After all, that girl is still considered part of your family. If handled properly, the Chen family could benefit from this. General Du also spoke up to apologize. I'm sorry I didn't step forward earlier today. Old Chen, please don't blame me. Honestly, I was startled when I encountered Mr. Lu. I only dared to confirm his identity after careful recognition, as some matters were still confidential before the whole military exercise. Du Linjun continued, I can only tell you, Mr. Lu's strength far exceeds your imagination. The military even holds him in high regard, and he might match old Jiang's peer in the future. Hearing this, both Chen Jingnan and Jiang He were stunned. Old Jiang's peer? Isn't that Martial Saint Tan Zhongyu? Does that mean Lu Xing could potentially reach the level of a 9th degree martial saint? They thought they had already overestimated his status, but his true background was far more profound, even 100 times more exaggerated than imagined. After speaking, General Du indicated he had said enough and then prepared to leave. After hearing about Lu Xing's extraordinary status, old Jiang briefly considered informing Martial Saint Tan Zhongyu, but then thought better of it, as the martial saint probably already knew. Meanwhile, as Lu Xing and Yilingsu were parting at the hotel entrance, he handed her the formula for the 4th level Golden Dragon Saliva. One reason was that Linxing Pharma, having grown to its present size, truly needed a high-end product to establish its credibility. Another was that Yilingsu, despite being surrounded by the elite, had unhesitatingly chosen to stand by his side, proving her loyalty. Lu Xing mused, the last time someone did this for me was that chubby Lin Zhe at the freshman conference. words. He came out and cursed at those who doubted me. Looking at the night scene of capital, Lu Xing smiled slightly and stepped forward. Perhaps these next few days, it would be good to meet some old friends. At that moment, Lu Xing pulled out the bottle of the tragedy of the saint. Last time, he was too rushed to study it. This concoction, reputed to kill a martial saint, even as records in the future databases, claiming it's quite extraordinary. It's said that even 10,000 years into the future, this poison remains incredibly potent, once nearly killing a level 10 powerhouse. Driven by curiosity, Lu Xing thought about trying it. If I can withstand a poison that even a 9th degree martial saint can't handle, wouldn't that prove I'm stronger than a 9th degree martial saint? He was also curious about how exactly this poison could kill a martial saint. After all, just the physique of a 7th degree grandmaster is enough to be immune to over 90% of the world's toxins. What seems deadly to others is trivial to a 7th degree grandmaster, like drinking a potent herbicide as if it were water, and it's really no joke. Transcendence, 100 times the immunity, cell activity, and metabolic rate of an ordinary person, causes most poisons to be metabolized before they can even take effect when they enter the body. Even if they do take effect, the strong self-healing ability can quickly neutralize them. However, the tragedy of the saint is different. According to the Fire Seed Repository's description, the toxin in this poison is extracted from the bodies of exotic beasts above level 9, involving aspects far beyond genetics. What deeper stuff is that? It's said to cause permanent damage. But it doesn't matter anymore, Lu Xing thought to himself. Eventually, the cells in his body would be entirely replaced with immortal cells, and any damage would naturally heal. Saying this, he carefully used his psychic power to extract 1/10,000th of the liquid from the bottle. Then, he dropped this tiny amount of liquid into a cup of water. Surprisingly, this substance was undetectable even by psychic probing, and martial artists' senses showed no disturbance. No wonder even martial saints fall victim to it. Then, Lu Xing gulped it down in one go, to leave no trace. He even swallowed the cup. After all, with my current physique, even chewing stainless steel is no problem. Next, he quietly waited for the death seed to strike. Suddenly, with a swoosh, Lu Xing's gaze sharpened. He felt an odd sensation in his stomach, as if something was trying to corrode his body. A green mist wildly swirled in his abdomen, seeming to devour everything, as if a demon was thriving inside Lu Xing. Soon, this demon grew larger, raising its hand to devour the vitality inside Lu Xing. However, Lu Xing's cells were too strong to be disturbed. A mass of cells quickly mobilized to expel the demon. In just a moment, the previously vibrating abdomen had returned to normal. The cells inside Lu Xing were fiercely fighting the intruder. The poison's force tried to erode his body, forcing him to transform in an unknown direction, while his own power, the cells, desperately resisted this transformation. The genetic aggressiveness of exotic beasts, higher life forms, is strong. Deep contact can affect or even assimilate. Like those heretics Lu Xing encountered deep underground, their psychic power was warped and their bodies were tainted. Though only a little of the tragedy of the saint was used, it's equivalent to a normal person directly consuming a level 7 exotic beast. However, Lu Xing's physique is too strong, utterly fearless. The contest ended too quickly, so fast that Lu Xing barely sensed anything before the poison's force was completely suppressed. Could it be that the toxicity will only emerge further after the cells are successfully mutated? Saying this, Lu Xing directly cut open his palm and dropped a drop of the poison on it. This time, with direct contact, the reaction was indeed more intense. Instantly, a black and red eerie mist made a sizzling sound, and the veins in Lu Xing's palm bulged. However, as the poison invaded, the cells in Lu Xing's body quickly began to resist comprehensively. Seeing the situation, it seemed the poison might be directly expelled again. If it's not effective, then let me help you. After saying this, Lu Xing activated his psychic power, controlling the cells in his body. Little toxin, get in there nicely. Soon, the toxin crazily drilled into the meridians of his palm, seeming to be completely absorbed. However, Lu Xing's body still felt nothing. The only change was that his fingernails had grown a bit. Just as he finished speaking, the skin on his palm suddenly split open, and a red eye opened in the center of his palm. What the hell is this? What was most shocking was that this eye seemed to have developed a consciousness. It was a sensation full of explosive power, as if it was the boundary between man and demon. Even so, this power could only remain within the range of his palm and wrist. The rest of his body was firmly resisted by Lu Xing's stellar indestructible body, preventing it from further invading his body. Lu Xing slowly raised his right hand, tentatively moving his fingers. The next moment, a destructive energy burst from his fingertips, directly tearing the space in front of him. Holy crap, that's too intense. Lu Xing was stunned. He had merely flicked his finger, and yet such immense destructive power had been unleashed. This sharp energy could even cut through space, in some respects comparable to the stellar indestructible body. He could clearly feel his palm filled with countless destructive cells. These cells were somewhat similar to immortal cells, but their direction was completely different. Immortal cells seek ultimate perfection, eternal life, immortality, indestructibility. Meanwhile, these black cells pursued a path of ultimate destruction and endless devastation. Both far surpassed human cellular levels. No wonder exotic beasts are so powerful. powerful. However, there's still a huge gap between the two. Immortal cells are the result of billions of transformations, whereas this mutated hand was simply formed through brute force. Lu Xing looked down at his own palm, feeling a mix of emotions. Just mutating a single palm and the power is so terrifying. The tragedy of the saint's power had been greatly diluted, and the number of mutations was probably less than 1,000,000. The next moment, Lu Xing's eyes sharpened, and a bold idea popped into his mind. If I inject all this mutated genetic energy into a single cell, allowing it to undergo billions of transformations like the immortal cells, could it give rise to a type of cell at the same level as the immortal cells, but of another extreme nature? Perhaps this was a way to explore the limits of the flesh while still retaining a normal human form. Just then, Lu Xing's expression suddenly changed, feeling intense pain in his right hand. His once vibrant right hand rapidly aged, withered, and died in that instant. The vitality of immortal cells is 1,000,000,000 times that of ordinary cells. Although the mutated cells can't compare, they shouldn't be this short-lived. What could be causing this? Speaking, Lu Xing suddenly shuddered, a terrifying conjecture emerging in his mind. Could it be the rules? Is the path of mutated cells unfeasible in this world? To be precise, the organisms of this world cannot withstand it. He analyzed calmly. Once the tragedy of the saint is ingested, the cells within the body will inevitably become infected, and this infection leads to the rapid aging and decay of the mutated cells, resulting in a backlash. Regardless of whether it is a 9th degree or 10th degree martial artist's physique, none can counter the erasure by the rules, and can only watch as the cells die. No wonder even martial saints can be poisoned to death, with no response from martial intuition, because this is not a poison, but the power of rules. Thoughts rapidly surged through Lu Xing's mind. If this is a killing by the rules, then can this power be harnessed for my own use? Just then, his heart began to beat violently, and the blood pill in front of his chest also started to expand wildly, as if it was about to burst. Such powerful force. It can't keep expanding like this. Saying this, Lu Xing concentrated his psychic power in his palm and grabbed the blood pill. Without hesitation, he used the power concentrated by his psychic energy to shatter the current blood pill. Boom! The moment the blood pill shattered, a vast wave of energy swept out, causing the entire space to seem to tremble. Explosive energy enveloped Lu Xing's entire body, while his 8th immortal cell was rapidly coalescing and being born. After the energy settled, Lu Xing touched his chest, his face curious. Where did that power just come from? Could it be because of that drop of the tragedy of the saint? Though the mutation had already disappeared, the power it generated naturally flowed into his body. Unexpected that just a single drop would possess such tremendous energy. What if it were an entire bottle? A glint of excitement flashed in Lu Xing's eyes. He thought silently, I can completely use this method for cultivation. As for the trauma caused by the destruction of the rules, with immortal cells, it's not a problem at all. Limbs can quickly regenerate. Saying this, he again dropped a few drops of the toxin onto his palm. The next moment, a blood-red scythe brimming with intelligence flew out from his palm. Lu Xing looked at the scythe before him and burst into laughter. He began to use this bug for repeated experiments, breaking, destroying, and then remaking. After many attempts, Lu Xing found that the results of each mutation were different. Moreover, he realized what would happen if a single cell were mutated to the extreme. Rules are meant to be broken, aren't they? If rules affect you, it only means you're not strong enough yet. Meanwhile, in a snow-covered wilderness, two men were struggling to climb a snowy mountain. There really is a Sky Beyond peak on top of Mount Sky Beyond. The chubby man looked up at the peak ahead, gasping for breath, and said, I feel like where we are standing right now doesn't even count as the real summit. That protruding part up ahead, that's the absolute highest point. The next moment, they stopped in their tracks, staring in shock at a stone monument ahead. The monument was inscribed with a few large characters, Realm of the Divine, mortals shall not pass. The chubby man's eyes widened, his endocrine system in shock, his voice trembling. Realm of the Divine? Could it be one of the 3 strongest people in Dragon Nation? The two looked up to see at the very top of the mountain. Indeed, there was a simple courtyard. Several disciples were carrying a coffin forward. The body of Madame Wu has been brought. A subordinate explained that Lian Su had died from a broken neck. Zhao Ji became furious upon hearing this and harshly demanded the full story from his subordinates. However, after understanding the whole situation, he merely sighed. It turns out this woman caused so much trouble behind my back. She deserved to die. However, a red-haired subordinate said unwillingly, the person Madame was targeting, though far away at the time, definitely cannot be disconnected from this, because in Dragon Nation, no one else would dare to lay a hand on Madame Su. Zhao Ji still waved his hand, indifferently saying, let it be. The red-haired subordinate couldn't accept this, retorting, my lord, Madame Su's death is like a slap to your face, and we're just going to let it slide? We know it was that Lu Shen. Zhao Ji patted Red-Hair's shoulder, speaking earnestly, Qinglong, I'm just a 9th degree martial saint, not a divine being. Some rules still need to be followed. That kid is now the top project of the military. If we move against him, the military will protect him at all costs. Plus, that kid left no evidence. In the end, Red Hair could only reluctantly bow his head. Zhao Ji stepped forward, gently touching Lian Su's face, his gaze complex. He murmured softly, even though we can't kill that kid, settling this matter won't be easy. The the military this time, too, will have to be severely punished. Just then, Zhao Ji was suddenly greatly shocked, his hand trembling as it hovered over Lian Su. A golden aura began to coil around his arm, emitting a sizzling sound. The next moment, an overwhelming energy burst forth from within him. Zhao Ji's eyes flashed with ecstasy. I, Zhao Ji, once had offspring as well. As he spoke, his body transformed dramatically, morphing into a young figure standing in the original spot, his aura overwhelming. The disciples around were so terrified by this momentum that they all urinated themselves, kneeling on the ground, trembling with fear. After all, it's not easy for a martial saint to have a child. Previously, Lian Su's death was just a matter of a woman's vengeance. Now, it has become a legitimate vengeance for killing a son. That is an irreconcilable enmity. On the other hand, Lu Xing successfully used the tragedy of the saint to elevate his immortal cells to 13. Afterwards, he returned to school to meet old friends he hadn't seen for a long time. The chubby friend listened excitedly as Lu Xing recounted his experiences, especially the stories about exotic beasts. He was so excited that he almost wanted to graduate immediately and join Lu Xing in hunting exotic beasts. In contrast, Yang Yuan, hearing this, felt chills, his face full of fright, especially when hearing about the humanoid exotic beasts. Having not seen each other for half a year, the chubby friend had darkened a lot and had become much more muscular, clearly having devoted a lot of effort to martial arts training. Yang Yuan, however, hadn't changed much, just matured a lot. Seeing Lu Xing staring at him, Yang Yuan's cheeks instantly turned red, his heart pounding. The next moment, Lu Xing looked at the time and suddenly said, "Let's go, time to eat." The chubby friend excitedly mentioned that a new roasted sea pig restaurant had just opened nearby and was very good. However, just then, a flash of alarm crossed Lu Xing's mind. He clutched his head, showing a pained expression. Seeing this, the two immediately rushed forward to support him. Lu Xing hastily waved his hands to explain, "It's nothing, just some urgent matter to deal with. I might have to postpone this meal." Saying this, Lu Xing hurriedly flew off into the distance, telling them to go ahead and eat. The chubby friend sighed helplessly. It's even hard to have a meal with Brother Shin now. I really miss the days when we used to eat together at the St. Martial University cafeteria. However, Yang Yuan noticed the expression of pain on Lu Xing's face just a moment ago, and she couldn't help worrying. Could he have encountered some trouble? Right now, Lu Xing needed to find a quiet place where he wouldn't be disturbed to calm down. Soon, he arrived at a nearby park. He slowly found a chair to sit down, his thoughts swirling. Just now, the 13 immortal cells vibrated intensely, flickering like fireflies, an unprecedented sense of crisis washing over his consciousness wave after wave, and this feeling was getting stronger. What on earth is going on? Lu Xing furrowed his brows, thinking to himself, I might need to check the resource library. The next moment, he re-entered the dream space. Immediately, he urgently requested Ai to pull up his life data. Soon, Ai's eyes projected the data. However, after looking around, Lu Xing noticed that nothing seemed to have changed. Just then, he was suddenly startled, his gaze fixed on a line of text. Lu Xing's lifespan, from June of the 297th year of martial Dao to January of the 317th year of martial Dao. What the hell is this? He looked at the data in shock, and the next line of content made his spine chill. Cause of death: Lu Xing was personally killed by Extreme Wei Marshal Saint Zhao Qi at the Ninghai Headquarters Military Performance Conference of the Military Department. Age 20. It was indeed Extreme Wei Marshal Saint Zhao Qi. Lu Xing muttered through gritted teeth, but his mind was full of questions. But why? Zhao Qi is just a 9th degree martial saint, not a 10th degree, and he can't cover the sky with one hand. He clearly knows I have the protection of the military, and there's no evidence on the surface that points to me having killed Lian Su. So why would he target me? Where did things go wrong? Lu Xing pondered for a moment, then a thought suddenly occurred to him. Could it be that woman Lian Su was really that important to him? But why would he choose to compromise the first time? Unable to figure it out, his thoughts became more and more chaotic. He had thought it was a plan he could be proud of, but now it seemed all was lost. The sky quickly changed, and 3 days passed. At this moment, Lu Xing was still sitting motionless on the park bench, his body now covered in fallen leaves. A passing couple saw this and couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my god, we saw him sitting here 3 days ago. He's grown moldy. Isn't he dead?" The man walked up and cautiously shook Lu Xing, noticing that he was still breathing. He and his girlfriend whispered, "Maybe he's been shocked, or maybe he's heartbroken." Heartbroken? With his good looks, he can be heartbroken. As they were talking, Lu Xing slowly opened a pair of panda eyes. The guy asked with concern, "Dude, are you okay? What happened?" Lu Xing waved his hand, tiredly saying, "It's nothing, just been thinking about something and can't figure it out." The man looked shocked. "Wow, you've been thinking for 3 days and still haven't figured it out? If you don't mind, tell me about it." He signaled his girlfriend to leave first, then turned to seriously face Lu Xing. Lu Xing pondered for a moment and then said, "There's something I thought was perfectly planned. I even had the most authoritative organizations verify it several times, yet something unexpected still happened, and it turned out completely different from what I had anticipated." After hearing this, the man pulled out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, and started smoking. "Hey, I thought it was something serious. You said it was an accident, and accidents are normal, right?" Lu Xing was still puzzled, but I had it verified by authorities, and they told me there wouldn't be any accidents. The man shook his head and waved his hand, exhaling a puff of smoke, and laughed. Well, that just means the authority you consulted wasn't authoritative enough. Maybe they were even fraudsters. Hearing this, Lu Sheng was suddenly startled, as if he had realized something. Not authoritative enough. The man continued, as the saying goes, life is full of disappointments. Why worry so much? If you fail, just start over. It's simple, really. No need to make it such a big deal. The next moment, Lu Sheng suddenly stood up, startling the man. You're right. I've been overthinking things. Being too clever for my own good. There's nothing in this world that's 100% accurate. Thanks, bro. After saying this, Lu Sheng quickly sprinted forward. Watching him run off, the man couldn't help but remark, youth is great, so full of energy. Soon after returning to his residence, Lu Sheng immediately contacted Dong Qingxue. He instructed, take good care of mom and dad. Lu Sheng felt he had been wrong. He reflected, unsure of when his approach had started to deviate. Now, whether it was his brain development, intelligence, or capabilities in his martial god state, he had reached a very high level. This made him rely more on strategy rather than his fists in dealing with situations. Sometimes, being a bit more reckless might be better. He had been too trusting of the future shown in the dream space, never seriously considering whether that supposed future actually existed. He initially thought that it was due to the butterfly effect, unable to have a significant impact on the future 10,000 years later. But the truth was, the dream space couldn't account for him as a variable. After all, the strongest person in the world can't lift themselves by the back of their neck. Similarly, a deity can create the world, but cannot create another deity as great as itself. Lu Sheng recalled the first time he saw his life resume. He preemptively assumed that it was the inevitable future. However, if one carefully analyzed the data, such as the initially insignificant spirit muscle fortifying blood soup, which, in 10,000 years, reached level 5, its effects amplified by more than 1,000 times. But an ingredient in the recipe called bluing leaf essence was marked as theoretically exists, but currently does not exist. What does that mean? It means this component exists only in theory. It is fictitious or imagined, and even the name might be fake. I should have thought of this earlier. Lu Sheng muttered to himself, deeply moved. The dream space seemed incredibly accurate, but in fact, it was full of loopholes. Even the core ingredients of a recipe could be fabricated. He had taken out the recipe early and promoted its evolution, which should have impacted the future. The future depicted in the Fire Seed repository should have changed as well, even extending the martial arts civilization for several hundred years. However, now in the dream, not a single leaf or brick had changed. Lu Sheng suddenly felt like a fool. Perhaps it was darkness under the lamplight, trusting the dream space too much. That is to say, this is a future that cannot be saved. No matter what Lu Sheng does, he cannot change the fact that this world has long been dead. Then, what was the purpose of those powerhouses in the dreams, passing their strength to him? What is the purpose of the dream space? Could it be all this is really like a computer operating with storage and powerful simulation capabilities? So, am I just a lucky seed? Is this the true meaning of the Fire Seed project? Now, he was no longer the savior, no longer needed to bear that heavy burden. But surprisingly, he did not feel a hint of relief or joy. Can you tell me all this? Lu Sheng whispered to himself. Just then, IE surprisingly answered. Insufficient permissions. Please upgrade permissions. Lu Sheng was taken aback, not expecting IE could actually respond to his question. It seems that only by continuously upgrading permissions, he could learn more truths. However, without the constraints of the word's future, Lu Sheng felt much more relaxed. He looked up, his lips curling into a confident smile. After all, I am destined to become the god of martial arts. How could I die so easily? Extreme Way Martial Saint? What is he really? Time flew by, and 2 days later, the full military martial university competition officially began. At this moment, a man on a skateboard surfed on the sea surface, then leaped up and landed on the command ship at the center of the military district. On the other side, inside the headquarters, the leaders observed this scene through the monitoring system. They confirmed that this was the #1 General Star of the Southern Military District, ranked second on the General Star list, with a combat power exceeding 25 stars. His prowess and spirit were indeed awe-inspiring. The bald marshal from the Southern Military District was particularly proud, his face full of pride. Following this, a helicopter hovered over the sea, and a man with yellow hair dropped from the sky. However, he misjudged his strength and plunged directly into the sea, causing a huge splash, looking like he was bombing fish. But the next second, this yellow-haired man emerged from the sea holding 2 tons of fish, leaving onlookers dumbfounded. One has to admit, Gao Tianzong, the #1 General Star of the Northern Military District, is indeed a top-notch master. Next to appear was Yan Fei, the female General Star of the Western War Zone. She arrived surfing on a shark, moving effortlessly. Seeing her crowd of fans, she frowned slightly and sighed, apparently finding them too noisy. By now, 3 of the 5 top General Stars had arrived. Before anyone could comment further, thousands of giant waves rose behind them. A man was seen standing slowly atop a colossal wave, his presence overwhelming. The crowd cheered loudly. Look, that's Dong Padian, the #1 person from the Central Military District. Dong Padian, with a distant look in his eyes, gazed downward and spoke softly. This year seems to be much livelier than before. On the military ship below, the crowd was boiling, shouting Dong Potion's name with fervent enthusiasm. Inside the command room, the leaders were discussing amongst themselves. So, this is Dong Potion? His presence is truly remarkable. Isn't he said to have the qualifications and strength of a general already? Yes. Last I heard he easily broke through to 40-star combat power. None of the others can compare. Praises were heard non-stop, and the central marshal proudly stroked his beard, his face full of pride. At this moment, he looked towards the Eastern Military District and asked, "Why hasn't the Eastern General's star appeared yet?" Beside him, the chubby officer shrugged helplessly and said, "The Eastern General's star has already made his appearance. It's just that it wasn't flashy. Why don't we see the celebrated sun hero of the East today? Perhaps he felt slightly inferior and chose to travel incognito, and we just didn't notice." At this moment, the Eastern Marshal quietly asked his deputy, "Where's Lu Sheng?" The deputy answered somewhat awkwardly, "Lu Sheng entered his room for a retreat a few days ago, and I didn't dare disturb him. I didn't expect that he wouldn't attend such an important event as the military district competition." Hearing this, the Eastern Marshal sighed. If he's in retreat, then let him be. No need to disturb him. The achievements of Lu Sheng, who had traveled 8,000 miles to slay the 5 pillars of the demon god of the Black Magic Society, had already spread among the military's high command. He was the general's most watched person, receiving even more attention than the so-called Dong Emperor Dong Padian by several levels. Although this competition could greatly boost our prestige, it is obviously more important that Lu Sheng continues his retreat. Just then, a girl on the podium suddenly changed her expression dramatically, receiving a piece of intelligence. After confirming it several times over the phone, she was so shocked that one of her eyes nearly fell out. "Ladies and gentlemen, Eastern General Star Lu Sheng. He has already arrived." Arrived? Where? Just please look at the big screen. The next scene completely dumbfounded all the military district marshals, even leaving them slack-jawed. On the big screen, Lu Sheng was seen lying on his large bed, floating on the sea surface, slowly drifting in with the waves. Is he still sleeping? This way of appearing is truly too unique. While various general stars made their appearances in high-style ways, the strongest Eastern General star, Lu Sheng, directly brought his large bed and slept his way over the sea. This scene left the marshals in shock and awe. As Lu Sheng's bed slowly approached on the sea surface, the expression of furrowed brows on his face indicated that he was not at ease in his dreams, even appearing somewhat in pain. The next moment, Lu Sheng suddenly opened his eyes. In a race against time, he had mobilized all available resources these past few days, practicing relentlessly. For more immortal cells had finally been added. Though still short of his target, there was still time. During the martial display, I can continue to improve. Dozens of bottles of level 8 beast marrow liquid and the tragedy of the saint were about to be completely absorbed. By now, the number of his immortal cells had reached 19. However, Lu Sheng couldn't help but complain, mainly because the immortal cells are too greedy. Every time a new cell is born, the old ones forcefully collect an entrance fee, causing the energy needed for the 20th cell to be about 3 times that of the first one. Just yesterday, Lu Sheng reviewed the data from the Fire Seed repository and discovered that as his strength continuously improved, the repository's predictions for the future also changed. On the shores of Yuning Sea, severely wounded by Transcendence Martial Saint and escaped 3 years later, revived, challenged Extreme Way, slew Extreme Way Martial Saint at Meteor Saint Mountain, known as Complete, the strongest under the heavens. Isn't life forged like this? Lu Sheng chuckled lightly, but then frowned. But severely wounded and escaping? What nonsense. That's not the future I want. At this moment, Lu Sheng lazily sat up from the bed and stretched languidly. The marshals around him murmured, "Is this man really Lu Sheng?" After the Eastern Marshal nodded in confirmation, the host of the All-Military District Martial University Competition promptly announced, "This edition of the All-Military District Martial University Competition officially begins." As the announcement echoed through every corner, the prelude to the competition gradually unfolded. All the soldiers were passionate and ready to go. According to the competition rules, this military drill would use merit points as the final accounting standard, aiming to capture exotic beasts from the deep sea. The rules are as follows. Merit points are exchanged according to the level of the exotic beast. The higher the level, the more points are awarded. During the competition, general stars may attack each other, with the loser forfeiting half their merit to the winner. Killing is prohibited. Violators will immediately be disqualified from the martial arts performance and will face corresponding military punishment. The competition lasts for 3 days. As fireworks burst from the battleships, the competition officially began. All the general stars eagerly rubbed their hands, ready to dive into the sea to hunt exotic beasts, creating a lively scene. Only Lu Sheng, still comfortably lying on his big bed, was sound asleep. Dong Padian stood at the forefront, his gaze coldly fixed on Lu Sheng's position, thinking to himself, "Is this the man Dong Qingxue likes? He seems like a clueless fool." With that, he leaped into the water. Although the rules are simple, kill exotic beasts, battle peers, securing the first place requires not only unmatched bravery but also supreme combat strength. Before long, all the general stars glided towards the location of the giant sea beasts, and the underwater battle instantly erupted. At this moment, Dong Padian, facing a low-level exotic beast, showed no interest and directly dived deeper into the sea. Just then, a bizarre exotic beast suddenly launched a bad breath attack attempting to block Dong Potion's path. Dong Padian snorted coldly, his eyes filled with disdain. "My target is not you." With that, he kicked out, sending the exotic beast flying 800 meters. A mere level 7 devourer beast dares to block my way. Meanwhile, on the sea surface, Lu Sheng was still fiercely sleeping, his immortal cells continuously growing stronger within him. However, at this moment, he suddenly awoke from his dream, a hint of cold light flashing in his eyes. Lu Sheng had exhausted all his resources, yet he still hadn't managed to gather enough energy for the 20th immortal cell. As he felt disheartened, a strange aura carrying energy fluctuations came from afar. No wonder this place can nurture so many powerful exotic beasts. With that, Lu Sheng leapt down, plunging into the sea. His descent was incredibly fast, and he soon reached 4,000 meters below the sea surface. Lu Sheng noted that the water pressure at this depth was far stronger than he had anticipated. He murmured, "Looks like I'll have to use the water breathing technique." As a burst of blue-green energy exploded from within him, his diving speed increased dramatically once more. Before the rise of martial arts, the maximum diving depth of humans' top submersibles was just over 10,000 meters, but the depth here was likely even greater. The water pressure here reached at least a ton, which, although not fatal for top general stars with combat powers of dozens of stars, could significantly increase the pressure in sustained combat in such an environment. However, for Lu Sheng, who had mastered the water-breathing technique, this pressure was almost negligible. He could treat this intense pressure as if it were nothing, without it affecting his strength in the slightest. More importantly, in such extreme pressure, his immortal cells seemed to undergo even more intense refinement, showing signs of further breakthroughs. However, at that moment, a bizarre cherry-shaped mouth slowly approached from the shadows, and the next second, it suddenly swallowed Lu Sheng whole. Meanwhile, on another island at sea, a large group of powerful martial artists stood. These individuals were the core strength of the Extreme Way Martial Arts School. A blue-haired man, somewhat puzzled, asked, "The opponent is just a general star. Why do we need the full force of Extreme Ways for symbols and 28 constellations to mobilize? Isn't this a bit much?" A burly man beside him said solemnly, "You underestimate him too much. This man managed to fight alone against the fourth pillar of the demon god of the Black Magic Society, and his strength is already very close to ours." Another woman said in shock, "I can't believe even that female demon is dead. It's unbelievable. We had fought once before, and she nearly broke through my defenses. She was a very capable opponent, with at least 70 stars in combat power, about equal to her. But Lu Sheng was able to kill her alone, truly a rare monster that appears once every 300 years. Another person said solemnly, "That's why we're mobilized this time, not just for Lu Sheng alone. It's not difficult to kill one Lu Sheng, but there are too many top experts in the military, 5 grand marshals, dozens of generals, and those hidden veteran powerhouses. If they join forces, even the martial saint might have to step aside. After all, it's impossible to kill all the top experts. Indeed, the military has been brewing for over 200 years to cultivate a true level 9 powerhouse. They will spare no expense to protect Lu Sheng. But don't worry, we only need to encircle and kill Lu Sheng. The pressure from the military will naturally be blocked by Martial Saint." Just then, the blue-haired man suddenly shouted, "Martial Saint is coming." A man enveloped in flames walked slowly towards them, holding the body of Lian Su, his clothes stained with patches of blood, his aura overwhelming. The blue-haired man sighed. "The military has waited 200 years to get a level 9 martial artist, but isn't it the same for the Lord?" Someone whispered, "After the battle years ago, the Lord lost his loved one and couldn't get an heir for 100 years. Just when he saw hope, it was brutally extinguished by Lu Sheng. So, this time, Lu Sheng must die."